We're back again with the budget powerhouse herself, Dorinthea Ironstone. Hello and welcome to the table, and today I am very excited to be going over another deck tech video, budget in my eyes, deck tech video for Dorinthea Ironstone. Probably realistically, since High Seas isn't out yet, my second favorite hero in all of Flesh and Blood. Now I get it, with shipping this deck is about 180 bucks. Might not be budget in a lot of people's eyes, but considering since the last time I've done a Dorinthea video, which has been a minute at this point, and the upgrades I've added to this deck to make it better than it was before, and honestly cheaper than it was before, this deck is incredibly powerful. Is it going to beat the best decks in the world? Probably not, unless you're a really skilled pilot. But for those of you just getting into Flesh and Blood who really want a powerful deck, who are willing to spend the money, this deck, Dorinthea Ironstone, is an incredible place to start. Dorinthea Ironstone, for those of you that don't know, is a warrior hero with 4 intellect and 40 health, and this once per turn effect that reads, when your weapon attack hits, you may attack an additional time with that weapon this turn. And you gotta have an action point in order to do that, so the weapon's gotta have go again. So, yeah, you gotta jump through some hoops, but you can attack with your weapon multiple times and get so much value out of it, it's not even funny. Especially when you're running Dawnblade, Dorinthea's signature weapon, and man, I love this card. First off, I mean, I've always loved the art, but this 3-powered, once per turn action attack for 1 resource, this sword, comes in, and it says if it hits, and it's the second time it has hit this turn, you put a +1 power counter on it, which is insane because that can scale, and man, can it scale quick if your opponent does not know how to deal with it. So this deck is incredibly aggressive, and it can scale and get out of control so quick, it's not even funny. The unfortunate thing with Dawnblade is at the beginning of your end phase, if it hasn't hit this turn, you gotta remove all the counters on it. Which, downside, sure, but if you can stick one single counter on Dawnblade, the ball starts to get rolling, and man, is it hard for your opponent to stop it. Unless you draw just a dead hand, your opponent has to invest so much time and resources into stopping Dawnblade and getting the counters off of it that you will have gotten tempo 100%. Sorry if you hear anything in the background, watching some sports in the background, and the Avs are doing really well. But Dawnblade, I mean, it can do so much work if it's got even 1 single counter on it. And if it's 2, man, is it hard for your opponent to stop it. But the equipment is also incredibly strong in this deck, even though only one of them is a legendary. And speaking of which, that legendary is Braveforge Bracers, a 2-block battle-worn warrior equipment arm piece that says once per turn, as an action, you can spend a resource to say your next weapon attack this turn gets +1 power. Then you can only activate this ability if you've hit with a weapon this turn. And sure, this action goes again, but you can't really get the buff out of this that often. And that's fine. It's not the best, but that additional buff, that additional single power buff can allow you to push a breakpoint that's just so much harder for the opponent to get through and deal with. And if you have a resource line around, just being able to use this, having access to it throughout the entirety of the game because it has Battle Worn, not Temper, so it's a lot harder for your opponent to get rid of. And the fact that it's got Battle Worn for 2 just makes this such a good card. And man, Dorinthea, I mean, this deck has a fridge of an equipment suite, even at a budget level. But speaking of which, Courage Blade Hold is the next card that I gotta talk about. A little bit more niche, but still pretty good on your very big power turns. Courage Blade Hold. It's got 2 block, and it's got Temper, not Battle Worn, but Temper's still pretty powerful, especially considering that you're gonna be wanting to destroy this, so you're only gonna usually be able to get 2 block out of this. But as an action, you can destroy it, and say all your sword attacks for the rest of the turn will cost 1 less resource. And the action, of course, has go again. So Courage Blade Hold, on the right turn, can just allow you to pop off so much. And if you don't have enough resources and you just have powerful cards to make your Dawnblade scary and you just don't have the resources to pitch into Dawnblade, you can pop the Courage of Bladehold and be perfectly happy with it. You don't have to just save it for those big power turns, because this card, man, when it works, let me tell you. I have been able to do so much more damage with this card because of that action. Sure, I don't get an extra block out of it, but man, it is so good if you don't already know. Then there is Helm of the Sharp Eye, probably the worst piece of equipment that this deck has access to, but it's still at a budget level, but it's still pretty solid. It's got 1 block Battle Worn, which is fine, and as an attack reaction, you can spend a resource, destroy it, banish the top card of your deck, and you may play this Comet Chain. You can only activate this ability if you control a weapon with power greater than twice its base. So it's niche, you gotta have Dawnblade buffed up quite a bit, and you have to spend a resource in order to get another card that you could potentially use. You have to use a lot of resources, and you have to have a lot of things line up in order to make this card work, but just the fact that it blocks for 1 Battle Worn is enough at a budget level, in addition to sometimes allowing you to get a little bit of extra value if you really need it later on in the game, when you have a lot more blues, making it a lot more easy to actually be able to use something like Helm of the Sharp Eye. Because even though this is an aggressive deck, it can last longer than the general aggressive deck. It can be a more mid-rangey deck if it needs to be, especially thanks to the sideboard. But then lastly, Refraction Bolters. Of all the budget pieces of equipment that this deck has access to, I mean, depending on your definition of budget, this is the best budget piece of equipment, but Refraction Bolters, generally speaking, for a common, is insanely budget, powerful awesomeness for Dorinthea and for most warriors, because it blocks for 1 Battle Worn, and when a weapon attack hits, you may destroy it and give that attack go again. Now, while there is a ton, and I mean a ton, of ways to give Dawnblade go again in this deck, you can't always ensure that the go again is going to matter, or that you don't have the go again, because yes, you are going to have those hands where it just doesn't work, and Refraction Bolters can allow you to smooth out those hands a little bit better, and just allow you to get more value and do more with your Dawnblade than you would otherwise be able to. So at a budget level, I just really like Refraction Bolters. I just love this card. But getting into the main deck, you can basically split it into 2 different ways. All the ways to give your Dawnblade go again, or all the ways to buff your Dawnblade. Now I'm going to go over all the ways to give Dawnblade go again first, talking about some of the cards near the end that are sort of giving it go again, but later on, or just like kind of giving it go again, but not really. But then the other half of the deck is just buffing Dawnblade and just making it really big. Now, the first card I want to talk about is Spoils of War. This card, yes, some of the cards, and a lot of the cards actually, that give Dawnblade go again do buff it in addition, but a lot of the ways that I'll be talking about that buff Dawnblade after all the cards that give it go again are usually at reaction speed. So anyways, getting into it, Spoils of War is a 1-cost warrior action with go again, blocks for 3, pitches for 1, says your next weapon attack this turn gets +2 power and go again, which is pretty powerful, and whenever a weapon you control hits this turn, you create 2 copper tokens. Now sure, coppers, you can't really use them that effectively, but later on in the game, or if you just draw a hand with a bunch of blues, having those coppers lying around could potentially be helpful, but the main thing that matters is for 1 resource, you give a +2 buff and go again, period in a sentence, to your next weapon attack, which is really strong, especially considering that this can block for 3, because pretty much this entire deck blocks for 3 except for like 2 cards, so yeah, that's pretty good for you too. But then the next card, Warrior's Valor. I got the red, I got the yellow, and I got the blue. Warrior's Valor is a 1-cost warrior action, blocks for 3, pitches for 1. It says your next weapon attack this turn gets +3 power, and when it hits, it gets go again. Pretty simple. The red gives a +3 power buff, pitches for 1. Yellow gives a +2 power buff, pitches for 2. And the blue, if I can find it, gives a +1 power buff and pitches for 3, which is really good. Especially, I like the blue and the red the most, but the yellow can be really helpful too when you need it. So got all of those, got the whole rainbow of Warrior's Valor, because that card is actually really surprisingly good in a budget version of Dorinthea, even the full rainbow of it. But easily the best way to give go again to Dawnblade in this deck at a budget level is Glistening Steelblade. This is not the most budget-friendly card in the world, but it is incredibly powerful and explosive. It pitches for 2, it costs 1, it blocks for 3, because Glistening Steel Blade is a Dorinthea specialization that says your next Dawnblade attack this turn just gets go again. Period. End of sentence. And whenever Dawnblade hits a hero this turn, you put a +1 power counter on it. So the thing that makes Dawnblade so explosive is that it has to hit 2 times in a turn in order to get that +1 power counter. But with Glistening Steel Blade, you can have it happen not just once a turn, but multiple times a turn based on the number of times that you're hitting, which is insane, allowing you to get, just in this card alone, up to potentially 3 +1 power counters on Dawnblade just with this card alone, which is absurdly powerful. And yes, this card is expensive, but it is powerful, let me tell you. But then I got run through. Just a one-off, pitches for 1, blocks for 3, pitches for 2, costs 1. I said pitches for 1, it costs 1, but it says target sword attack this turn gets go again, or target sword attack gets go again at reaction speed, which decent for you. And it says your next sword attack this turn gets +2 power. So it can kind of throw a wrench into your opponent's plans. It's like, oh, doesn't have to go again, I'll just block with this, or maybe not even block at all, and all of a sudden, boom, run through. Give it go again, it hits. Also, I'm swinging in with Dawnblade, now it's going to be coming in for 5 thanks to run through, which is really good for you. It's a one-off because it does cost 1 resource. It's not always the best. It's a pretty niche card, but when it works, it's pretty powerful. Otherwise, you can just pitch it for 2. You don't feel that bad about it either. And it blocks for 3, so if you need to block, it's also very good at doing that. But then I get all the blues that give go again to Dawnblade. The first one being Glint the Quicksilver, the best of the bunch in my opinion. Pitches for 3, costs nothing, blocks for 3. It says target weapon attack, gains go again. And it's a reaction, which makes it pretty good. And it also has Reprise, saying that if the defending hero has defended with a card from their hand this chain link, you get to draw a card. So not only does it give Dawnblade go again, period in a sentence, at reaction speed, might I add, but it also pitches for 3. It also blocks for 3, and it can also potentially draw you a card. Now, there are cards that allow you to draw in this deck. Not a ton of them, but Glint is an absolutely insane one because it just does so much of what this deck wants to do. And it's a blue. That blocks for 3 and costs nothing. So yeah, pretty good. Then I got Hit and Run. Pretty much all that matters. Pitches for 3, blocks for 3, costs nothing. Says your next weapon attack this turn gets go again. Sure, it can sometimes matter. If you've attacked with a weapon this turn, your next attack this turn gets +1 power. That can matter, but generally what matters is you play it, you give a thing go again, your next weapon go again if you need it. Pitches for 3, blocks for 3. That's all that generally matters. Then I got Precision Press. Costs 1, blocks for 3, pitches for 3. Says your next sword attack or dagger attack this turn gets go again, and Piercing 1. So it's slightly worse than Hit and Run in my opinion, but that Piercing 1 can matter from time to time. Otherwise, it just pitches for 3 or blocks for 3. That's all that generally matters. Trottle On, pretty similar. Pitches for 3, blocks for 3, costs nothing, and says your next attack with a cost, or with 3 or less base power this turn gets go again, which is pretty solid. This is actually a really good piece of, value in this deck. Like the Hunted, there are some Hunted commons. This and Nip at the Heels are actually really good commons from the Hunted that are coming in to this deck. So, I don't know. It's really good. But then, some cards that sort of give go again to Dawnblade. The first one that I want to talk about being Goblet of Blood Run Wine. This gives go again sort of to a Dawnblade. It pitches for 3, blocks for 2. One of the few cards that only block for 2, but it's still pretty good because it can get you a ton of value. So this costs nothing, and it creates an Agility token and a Vigor token. Now, at the start of your turn, your next turn, both of these tokens are going to be popping, and the Agility is going to be giving your next attack this turn go again, and the Vigor is going to be giving your next, it's going to be giving you a resource. Now, this deck is pretty resource intensive. There are a ton of blues in this deck, because generally how a hand works, you pitch a blue, you swing in with the Dawnblade, you buff the Dawnblade, with something, or give it go again with something like a Warrior's Valor, and then you attack into a Dawnblade. Then you spend another resource to attack with a Dawnblade. Then you have reactions lying around, zero-cost reactions like Iron Sun Reprise. I mean, there are a ton of resources that need to be poured into this deck in order to allow one to actually be able to, like, attack 2 times and hit 2 times with Dawnblade in order to get that power counter on it. So Goblet of Blood and Wine allowing you to make that a little bit easier to do with that Vigor token, in addition to giving out some free go again to the Dawnblade, can be really powerful. Sure, you have to wait a whole turn to do it, but if you're setting up a nice card in your arsenal in addition to playing this, sure, it's a blue, you're losing a blue, but it can still do a decent amount of work. But then there is Twinning Blade. This card sorta is giving go again, kinda not. Realistically, it's not. In order to attack with your Dawnblade twice, Dorinthea says that you gotta hit with it, right? And it's gotta have go again, obviously, so you can attack with it an additional time, but it's gotta hit. Well, if your Dawnblade isn't hitting and it's got go again, you're just kind of wasting that go again, and you're likely going to be wasting at least 1 or 2 cards in your hand, which sucks for you. But Twinning Blade here at a 2 of says that you can just attack an additional time with target sword this turn. You still have to have that action point, that go again on Dawnblade, in order to take advantage of that, but this does not require you to have to hit with that Dawnblade. So this is pretty good at allowing you to, if you really need to, attack with your Dawnblade that second time to potentially get that hit that you need and deal more damage and just put more pressure on your opponent. And if not, this blocks for 3 or pitches for 2. So, pretty solid. Plus, this is a 0-cost attack reaction, so that's pretty solid too. Then lastly, I got Lead with Speed. This is... sorry. This card, I was not really a fan of this card for the longest time. But then I'm like, you know what? 3 Floating likes it. A lot of people I know like it. Let's give it a try. And I played around with it. I love this card. Sure, it blocks for 2, but it costs 1 to give a +3 power buff to your next, in this deck, Warrior Attack, which is good. And then you get to create an Agility token. This is very similar to Warrior's Valor. It doesn't block for 3, but it does give guaranteed go again in a sense to an attack on your next turn. A big part of this deck is making Dawnblade big enough to where your opponent's defenses basically can't be enough to stop all of the damage from the Dawnblade, to get your on hits, to get the damage that you need through in order to get those counters on the Dawnblade. And this card can do that in addition to, on a future turn, allow you to get some go again if you draw a clunky hand. This card, it just does a lot of work, and I really like it. But speaking of buffing your Dawnblade being a really important part of the deck, let's talk about the other half of the deck, which is all the ways to buff Dawnblade to the moon. The first one being Iron Sun Response. This is the best way to buff Dawnblade because your opponent wants to defend the Dawnblade, because they do not want it to hit, because they do not want those power counters, and they do not want more pressure on them. And yeah, it sucks. But when they're defending and you're like, oh crap, it's not gonna hit, you can just play an Iron Sun Response for 0 resources as an attack reaction and just say, hey, you've defended with a card from your hand that's Chain Link. Well, my weapon is gonna get +3 power. Also, this blocks for 3. So that's pretty cool too. If it doesn't work, you can just block with it. This card I absolutely love because, I mean, 0 resources to give a +3 power buff at attack reaction speed. Sure, only in certain situations, but still, this card is nuts, and I absolutely love it. But then there's Out for Blood, another really insane attack reaction. Cost 1, gives a +3 power buff, guaranteed, period, and a sentence to a weapon. Really solid. And with Reprise, it gives an additional +1 power buff, which makes it that much harder for the opponent to block it all out, because basically this equals to a whole sync blow. So if your opponent's blocked with something on the Dawnblade for 3, and then you play something like an Iron Sun Response, buffing it up to 6, the opponent has to block with something like a sync blow for 4 in order to cover it all up. Well, with Out for Blood, it makes it... wait. Never mind. It still doesn't really help. But Out for Blood just buffs up more. It just buffs up more. It puts out more damage. It makes it harder for your opponent to block everything out. And I do like it a lot. I do like this. card. But then there is Stroke of Foresight, a 1-cost attack reaction. Again, it gives a +3 power buff at attack reaction speed. Again, really good. But the Reprise is especially powerful. Now, for a long time, I'm like, this deck doesn't really need Stroke of Foresight. But this card is really solid in Dorinthea, because if the opponent's defending with a card from their hand that's Chain Link, you get to draw a card with Stroke of Foresight, then put a card from your hand on the top or bottom of your deck. If you got too many blues, ship one to the bottom. If you want to make sure that you got a blue on your next turn, ship a blue to the top. If you got a clunky card in your hand and it doesn't work this turn, put it on top. Maybe it'll work out better next turn, and you draw a new card that might be what you need in order to get the damage through and above your opponent's defenses in order to get that on hit. Maybe drawing something like an Iron Sun response. This card just does work. If things aren't lining up just right, this card can allow you to get a little bit of extra advantage and potentially the route that you need in order to get over the top. But then, speaking of drawing cards and getting value, Steelblade Supremacy. I love this card. It is one of the best cards in this deck, but man is it hard to set up. But if you do, it does so much work. It costs 1, Steelblade Supremacy. For a warrior action, will go again. That says until the end of your turn, target weapon attack gets +2 power for the rest of the turn, and this on-hit of drawing a whole card. Now, the thing with Dorinthea is it's very resource intensive. You need a lot of stuff in order to ensure that you can hit with the Dawnblade multiple times and get that +1 power counter and get what you need in order to win the game. Well, Steelblade Supremacy allows you to draw more cards in addition to giving a Dawnblade +2 power for the rest of the turn, allowing it to make you draw cards that much more easily. Love the card. Sure, takes a little bit of setup, but if it works, this card ends games so quick. But then, continuing down the line, I got Iron Sun Determination, the best card in the game to pair up with Steelblade Supremacy, because this card is warrior action, pitches for 2, blocks for 3, costs nothing, got go again, and it says target weapon attack this turn gets +1 power, and more importantly, dominate until the end of the turn. So a +1 power buff for the rest of the turn, and dominate for the rest of the turn, making it that much harder for the opponent to defend your stuff, and make it that much easier for you to get those on hits. And if you got a Steelblade Supremacy going on, draw cards, which is nuts. These two are made for each other, because if you can give Dawnblade go again multiple times, and maybe even pull off a Twinning Blade in addition, to attack with Dawnblade 3 times in a turn, the amount of damage you can deal is dumb. I have pulled it off. I have dealt like 26 damage or something like that in a single turn with these two cards just drawn into stupidity. So that's pretty cool. But then you might be thinking to yourself, okay, sure, there are a lot of different things that you need in order to make things work. Well, what if I don't get the stuff at the right time? What if I don't draw the Iron Sun response that I need for 0 resources in order to buff my thing, get over the top, deal the damage that I need? Or I really need to go again. I need something like a Glint the Quicksilver, and I don't have a way to get my thing go again. I've used up my Refraction Bolters, or it's not going to hit, and I need to... Don't worry about it. Seating Steelblade has got your back. This 1-cost warrior attack reaction pitches for 2, blocks for 3, but more importantly, gives target weapon attack +1 power, and if they defended with a card from their handless Chain Link, you get to Reprise and search your deck for an attack reaction. Whatever one you want. Banish it face up, then shuffle your deck, and you may play that attack reaction this Chain Link. You need to get over the top, get that Iron Sun response. You need to get go again, get that Glint the Quicksilver. Does not matter, it will find it. And even if you've run out of Iron Sun responses, there are other ways at attack reaction speed to get over the top if you really need to. Like, Nip at the Heels. This card, actually, it does work. It can do some work. If you don't have any more Iron Sun responses, you need to get over the top, you play that same Steelblade, you got nothing else to search for, this card does work. Like, it is nuts. This zero-cost generic attack reaction from the Hunted blocks for 3, pitches for 3. Says target attack with 3 or less base power gets +1 power. This card, it's like a better, I don't know what the name of the card is, but it basically costs nothing. It does the same thing. It gives the thing +1 power, but it blocks for 2 and it pitches for 3. This is just a better version of that card. And this card, I mean, it can do some work. Like, if you really need to get something off the Singing Steel Blade to go over the top, you've run out of Iron Storm responses, this card gets it. And you have 0 resources left. This card can work with the Singing Steel Blade. I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. It's weird that what this card and this card together have done to get over the top to allow me to get the on-hits with Dawnblade that I've needed, but, I mean, hey, I'll take it. And that's the main reason why this card's in the deck, and for the go again, and just, like, at a really good cost, that's why Trotalon is in the deck. Hunted, these 2 cards, when I was drafting them, I'm like, okay, these cards are fine. I played them, I was surprised. Now I'm playing them in Constructed, I'm even more surprised. Plus, they got Pirates on them, and Nip at the heels. Trotalon is just like a dwarf riding around on a goat, which is cool. I mean, look at that. It's just a little dude riding on a little goat that's in iron. And the dwarf has got a giant axe, so that's pretty cool too. But I believe that is it for the main deck. There is a lot to look at, but you might notice the main deck has 57 cards. So you're gonna always need to side some stuff in. But trust me when I say, you got some good stuff to side in. Like Sink Below. 0 cost, 4 block, D-React. Says you can put the card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. You can put any card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. And then draw a card. You can just filter if you really need to. Fade for Scene, same thing, but it opts 1. That's pretty cool too. Just some really good defenses if you need it. If you're in a slightly more defensive matchup, I mean, generally speaking, you're always going to put in something like a Sink Below. If you need to be more defensive, maybe side out one of the not as good, like, red cards in the deck. Like maybe Out for Blood, and then side in a Fate for Scene, something like that. But there's some other really good defenses in the deck too, my gosh, in Steelblade Shunt, which is only a 2 of, but it gives for 1 resource, 6 defense at D-React speed, which is nuts. That's a lot of defense. Sure, it costs a resource, which sucks, but that's nuts. And if it's defending a weapon attack, you get to deal 1 damage to the attacking hero. So that's pretty cool too. But yeah, Steelblade Shunt, if you really need it, it is a good 2 of. It is a really good 2 of. But an even better way to defend, honestly, take it on the chin. Now, while there are a lot of cards that give Go Again in this deck, a lot of them are more aggressive. If you need to be a little bit more defensive, you might want to take out some of these more aggressively slanted ways to get Go Again, like Lead the Speed, for example. Well, that can suck for you, but you can side in something like Take It on the Chin, which can still give Go Again, in a sense. Because this, for 0 resources, is an instant speed way to say the next time that I would be dealt damage this turn, I get to prevent 2 of it. And if you do, you get to create an agility token, which on your very next turn, you get to give Go Again to target Dawnblade, effectively. Which is pretty cool. I mean, it can, I don't know. This card, ever since Heavy Hitters has come out, it's just like, this card doesn't do that much. This card isn't that good. It just does work. It just does solid work. If you've seen competitive tournaments with this card doing work, you know how much this card can do. So, yeah, pretty sweet. But then there's Route as a 1 of, Iron Sun Pride as a 1 of. Route, 2 cost, Warrior attack reaction, blocks for 3. Says target weapon attack gets +3 power. Not great, but it has Reprise, so if the defending hero is defending with the card from their hand as Chain Link, you get to return target non-equipment defending card to its owner's hand, which is insanely good for you, because, I mean, that can just get rid of a lot of, like, block from your opponent. If they're blocking with a defense reaction, like Sink Below, this card just says, and bounce it back. Sure, they can react with it again, which kind of stinks. So instead, you might want to bounce something back like a 3 block that they got access to. So don't do what I did and block or return D-React back to their hand because they could just replay it. Unless they it costs resources and they have no more resources to pitch it to, like a Steel Blade Shine. Then you would want to do it, but otherwise you don't. But then there's Iron Sun Pride. 1 cost, Warrior Instant Aura, says you put a +1 power counter on target sword you control, and whenever it leaves the arena, you must remove all +1 power counters from swords you control. At the beginning of your end phase, if a sword has not hit this turn, you destroy the Iron Sun Pride. It's a good way to get a little bit of extra damage out of your Dawnblade, but if you don't do that, it kind of blows up, and you lose a lot of value potentially, depending on how many +1 power counters, especially if you stacked a couple on a Dawnblade from Glistening Steel Blade. It can really stuck, which is why this is only a one-off. But when it works, I don't know, I mean, it can push some damage, and the fact that it's a permanent, basically, buff, can also make it pretty strong too. But then lastly, Jagged Edge. I mean, there's still a couple more cards, just some Arcane Barrier stuff. You always need Arcane Barrier. And I got the boots, and I got the hood, because out of all the equipments, I mean, you don't want to put either of these away. You'd rather put these away, so that's why there's Arcane Barrier here. You always need Arcane Barrier. I would put in 3, but these 2 are just way too important, so I only need 2. Plus, you don't want to pitch that often because, again, you need a lot of cards in order for the deck to work. But then, Jagged Edge. 1 cost, Warrior Attack Reaction from the Hunted. Absolutely love this card. Main reason that I wanted to remake this video, because this is a much better way for Dori to survive against the Enigma matchup, because this says target weapon attack gets +3 power and damage this would deal can't be prevented. You get to give that to a weapon, to a target Dawnblade, and yeah, going against Enigma, if you draw this, they're screwed. You get to just blow up so much of what they got, because man, when you're playing against Enigma, you are just screwed. But if you get to just say, none of my stuff can be prevented, all those stupid ward auras don't do a thing, I mean, you just feel like you're on top of the world. And this card is so much better at doing it than the last card, which I've completely forgotten about at this point because this card's just that much better. But yeah, also, another way you gotta look at it, the art. I mean, look at that art. It's so pretty. I would do another video talking about this deck just for the art on these cards alone. And that one, I mean, it's pretty sweet too. But anyways, that's the deck. That is the budget, depending on your definition of budget. Dorinthea Iron Sun deck. Absolutely love this deck. I really hope for those of you getting into Flesh and Blood, if you want a slightly more powerful deck, if you've gotten some armories, you really want to kind of like go the next step, get like a kind of in-between deck of like, sure, it's more than $50, but I don't want to spend like $1,000 or something. This deck does work. Trust me when I say it. And if you want to play something like Dori, let me tell you, it is a blast. But for all aside, hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's completely free, you won't regret it. And for all aside, see you next time, everybody.